Ever get that that feeling where it's like, wait a minute, is this real life or am I living in some kind of like uh, science fiction movie?
I know that feeling.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, so February 10th, 2023. Picture this. Deadhorse, Alaska, UFO, shot out of the sky. Sounds like every other UFO story you've ever heard, right?
Right.
Not even close. This one goes deep. We're talking like declassified NORAD logs, whispers of countermeasures, and let me tell you, the more you dig into this, the more you get the feeling that somebody doesn't want us to know what really happened.
Well, and what's crazy is that this whole thing hinges on a location that's like the furthest thing you can imagine from the frozen Alaskan wilderness where they shot down this UFO.
Let's talk about a curveball, right? We're
Yeah.
talking about sunny Florida, Tyndall Air Force Base to be exact. And get this, the logs, they weren't filed in Alaska. They were generated over 3,000 miles away at Tyndall.
Now, before you go thinking, oh, someone just filed those logs in the wrong place, you got to understand something. Tyndall. It's not your grandpa's Air Force Base. They call it the installation of the future. After getting hammered by a hurricane back in 2018, they rebuilt the whole thing. State-of-the-art tech, microgrids, backup power, the works. This place was designed to be self-sufficient, basically disaster-proof.
Yeah, so we've got this super high-tech, future-proof base in Florida and a UFO taking a nosedive in Alaska. And you're probably wondering, how in the world are those two things even remotely connected?
Right.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Our guide through this whole thing, he's a former Boeing engineer, a security consultant, and goes by the name Jeff Cruikshank.
Now, this guy, he knows his stuff. I mean, we're talking about someone who filed a Freedom of Information Act request, got his hands on these NORAD logs, and published his analysis in Liberation Times. And let me tell you, it's compelling stuff.
And when Cruikshank started connecting the dots in those logs, what he found was not just, your run-of-the-mill government paperwork.
Yeah.
We're talking about anomalies, strange occurrences, the kind of things that make you go, hold on a second, is that even possible? And all signs point to tech way more advanced than anything we thought was out there.
Yeah, see, what really jumped out at Cruikshank, and me too when I read his article, was this. Power fluctuations. And not just anywhere. At Tyndall, at that installation of the future during the UAP incident. You'd think a base designed to withstand anything wouldn't even blink at a little UFO action thousands of miles away.
Right. It's like finding out Fort Knox has a leaky faucet. So what's the deal? Just a coincidence. Did some high-tech gremlins get into the system? Or could it be something a little more deliberate?
And that is the question, isn't it? Buckle up, because where we're going next is where it gets really wild.
So we're talking about power issues, glitches, whatever you want to call them, at a base it's supposed to be like the gold standard of military might.
And we're not talking about some minor flickering lights here. February 10th, 2023, Tyndall Air Force Base starts showing signs that something's not right, and it lines up perfectly with the UAP takedown over Alaska.
Yeah, it's like clockwork, almost.
Yeah.
07.48 Zulu time. That's Greenwich Mean Time, by the way, in case you're following along at home.
Yeah.
Tyndall loses power completely.
Poof. Gone. Not exactly the installation of the future they advertised, huh? Backup power kicks in, but then 7 minutes later, technicians are scrambling.
Oh, so they had to call in the cavalry for this one.
Looks like it. The logs mentioned faulty equipment, specifically the scopes, whatever those were.
The scopes.
Oh.
Sounds ominous, doesn't it? But okay, fine. Maybe it was just a fluke. Power surge, equipment malfunction happens, right?
You'd think so, right? Except, hold on to your hats, because it gets weirder. At 12.42 Zulu, hours after that initial outage, and I mean right before they take down that UAP, the logs show the mission crew commander, the MCC, giving the order to stay on emergency power.
Now, wait a minute. Stay on emergency power. Why? I thought they had backup generators, solar panels, the whole shebang.
They do. That's the thing. Tyndall is practically its own little power grid. Redundancy is the name of the game. Why stick with emergency power when they've got options?
Unless they knew something else was coming, something that might take out those other power sources.
Now you're catching on. And that's exactly what Cruikshank thinks. In fact, he's even suggests that there might have been other UAPs involved, maybe a whole group of them, working together.
Whole fleet of UFOs messing with our systems. That's a conspiracy theory I can get behind. Okay, but before we go full X-Files, let's break it down. We keep hearing about these acronyms, CONR, ANR. What are we, back in high school?
Right, sorry. Think of it this way. CONR, Continental U.S. NORAD region, that's Tyndall's baby. They're watching the skies over the U.S. ANR, Alaskan NORAD region. They're the ones tracking that UAP up north.
And the MCC, this mission crew commander, they're like the conductor of this whole orchestra of chaos.
Exactly. Imagine them with a headset, surrounded by screens, trying to make sense of radar blips and radio chatter. They're making decisions that could affect, well, everything.
Talk about pressure. So this whole thing, it's not just lights flickering on and off. We're talking about a potential threat to national security.
Absolutely. Cruikshank even compares it to, the NORAD tapes from 9/11. Remember all that confusion? No one knew what was happening or what to do. It's that level of uncertainty, that feeling that we're out of our depth.
This is giving me chills, and not the good kind. All right, I got to ask, though, what about a simpler explanation? Could this have been hackers? Some kind of cyber attack?
Cruikshank addresses that. He says, look at the location of UAP-20. It was north of Deadhorse.
Mm.
Even if someone was trying to, hijack a satellite to mess with communications, it wouldn't have been in range.
Okay, so much for blaming the Russians. What about something more, I don't know, explosive? An EMP, maybe? I've seen enough movies to know that can fry electronics from pretty far away.
An EMP is definitely a scary thought, but in this case, it doesn't quite fit. See, an EMP strong enough to knock out Tyndall, that'd leave a mark, right? And not just on the base. We'd be talking blackouts, communication breakdowns, the whole 9 yards. And there's no record of any of that happening.
So we've ruled out hackers, we've ruled out space lasers. What are we left with? Are we really saying that this UFO, this thing in the sky, thousands of miles away, somehow shut down part of a state-of-the-art military base as like a warning shot?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's a question that leads to a whole lot of other even bigger questions. Because if that's true, if they can do that, then what else are they capable of?
All right, let's just say for a second that we're not dealing with some, freak accident here. No crossed wires, no rogue hackers, no space weather. Let's say that this thing, this UAP, really did reach out and flick the off switch at Tyndall Air Force Base from all the way up in Alaska.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Well, it means we're not playing on the same level anymore. Not even close. Forget about bigger bombs, faster planes. This is like discovering a cheat code to the universe that we didn't even know existed.
It's like we brought a slingshot to a gunfight, right?
More like a water balloon to a supernova. And if we're really talking about something, well, something not from around here, something that doesn't play by the same rules of physics.
Something with tech that makes ours look like, what, stone tools?
Then we got to start asking some pretty uncomfortable questions. Not just about what they can do, but about what that means for us, for all of us.
Yeah, Cruikshank said it best in his article. The scariest thought isn't, can we take him down? It's, what happens if we try and we miss? What if our fancy jets and our missile defense systems, all of it, just stops working because they decide they don't want it to?
Our whole world runs on tech, right? Power grids, communication, banking, it's all connected. What happens when someone figures out how to turn off the lights?
Now, that's a blackout nobody wants to be around for. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's why they're being so quiet about all this.
You mean the whole, government cover-up thing?
Yeah. I mean, for years, it was all conspiracy theories, right?
Yeah.
But now, well, it makes you wonder, is it better to admit we might not be at the top of the food chain anymore, or that we might not even be in the same ecosystem? That's a chilling thought. But that's the thing about these deep dives, right? We look at the facts. Sometimes they're a little scary, but hey, knowledge is power.
Couldn't agree more.
And right now, feels like we need all the knowledge we can get. So let's recap. We started with a UFO getting taken down in Alaska. Routine, right? But then those NORAD logs, those power glitches, that's where the story takes a turn. Suddenly we're talking about tech so advanced it might as well be magic. Tech that could turn off the lights on civilization as we know it. And that's the thing about the unknown, isn't it? It's out there. Always has been. And the more we learn, the more we realize just how much we don't know. So yeah, keep looking up, keep asking questions, because like we always say, the truth is out there. Until next time, stay curious, and maybe keep a flashlight handy. You never know when you might need it.